friends, it's day 5 and our final day of Christmas cupcake week, and today we have this really fun cupcake inspired by a snow globe. I always see snow globe cupcakes with like a gelatin bubble around it or even like a plastic bubble, but I had an idea to use one of these sphere silicone molds to make a snow globe cupcake, so I was curious to see if this would actually turn out. We start with a piping bag filled with white buttercream and fitted with a Wilton piping tip 12. We're going to pipe 3 dots in the center, each of them getting a little bit bigger. This is obviously going to be our snowman. Then using the same piping bag, we're going to pipe a whole layer of buttercream so it looks like the snowman is sitting on a patch of snow. Then to fill in the rest of our space, we're using a piping bag filled with light blue buttercream and piping all around our snowman and just filling in the rest of that space. Then to try and let the buttercream settle a little bit down, I decided to tap it on the counter a little bit. And then to finish filling it in, I just added a little bit more buttercream. Then we tap it on the counter once more, and then we take our cupcake, flipping it upside down and putting it right on top of our buttercream and giving it a nice press just to make sure it sticks. Then we pop that into the freezer for at least 15 minutes. We just want to make sure the buttercream is nice and solid, and once it is, we can carefully remove it from the mold. Then to finish off our snowman, we're going to take a piping bag filled with black buttercream and fit it with a Wilton piping tip 2. We're going to pipe 2 eyes, some dots for the mouth, and also of course some buttons along the torso. For the snowman's final touch, we have a piping bag filled with orange buttercream and fitted with the Wilton piping tip 4. We're going to pipe a little dot kind of going to the side just to look like a carrot nose, and then we're going to pop this back in the freezer to make sure everything stays nice and solid. We don't need to keep it in there for too long, maybe just a couple of minutes, and once our buttercream is nice and solid, we're going to completely cover all of the buttercream in white sanding sugar sprinkles. At first I wasn't quite sure that I liked how this looked. I was kind of like, yeah, it's not exactly what I envisioned, so I kind of set it to the side while I was working on some other cupcakes, and I revisited it as I was putting my cupcakes away. I think that some of the condensation actually from the cold buttercream as it was sitting at room temperature helped to slightly dissolve some of the sugar sprinkles in a really interesting way. And interesting, I feel like it ended up looking a little bit more like a snow globe. In the end, I was actually pretty happy with how this one turned out, but of course I'm very curious what you think of this one, so make sure to let me know in the comments if you think it was a success or do you think it was a fail. Make sure to drop that in the comments, and of course stay tuned for more Christmas fun during our holiday series.